Welcome back to another video in our Android Development Starter course. In this video, we're going to continue on with our journey learning Kotlin. We're going to be looking at some operators here. Specifically, we'll be looking at arithmetic operators, at your assignment operator, which is a very important concept in Kotlin. And then also, we'll be looking at your increment and decrement operators. So here, I have, again, I'm just in an example project. And in my main activity in the onCreate function, I've defined three variables here, x, y, and z. And then down here, I just have an add, subtract, multiply, divide, and modulus, which we'll see what that is in a minute. But these are all variable names. And then on the right hand of the equals sign, we have, essentially, I'm just demonstrating how to use your arithmetic operators. And if you've taken a math course, or another programming course for that matter, these should all be mostly familiar to you. So x plus y plus z, well, our value of x is 3, our value of y is 7, and our value of z is 2. So 3 plus 7 is 10, plus 2 is 12. And in our log over here, you can see that's what we get, is x plus y plus z equals 12. So this plus sign, as we call it in math, in Kotlin, we call it our addition operator, and that works exactly like the plus sign does in math. That's what you would expect it would do. Same thing with the minus sign, x minus, or y rather, minus x. So y is 7 minus x, which is 3. That brings us to 4. And then minus 1, that's going to bring us down to 3. And you can see on the log, that's what we get. And again, here, when we're doing calculations with your arithmetic operators in Kotlin, you can see I can either use a variable name, for example, y or x, or I can use just a raw number, like 1 here, or I can mix those together. Now, your multiply operator, your multiplication operator in Kotlin, and in most programming languages, is going to be your asterisk. Now, you're used to probably, if you haven't taken much programming, but you've taken math, you're used to the x being your multiplication sign. But the reason why we don't do that is because x in programming can often be a variable name. And in fact, in this program, it is a variable name right there. So if I write 8xz, the compiler is going to see 8, the variable x, and then the variable z, and it's not going to know what to do with those numbers. So we don't use x for multiplication in programming. We use our asterisk instead. So 8 asterisk z is going to be 8 times whatever the value of z is, which is 2, which should give us 16. And you can see over here, that's what we get. Your division operator is going to be your forward slash. So 16 divided by 2 should give us 8. And you can see over here, 16 divided by 2 does in fact give us 8. Now, this next one here is going to give us a bit of a curveball. You can see we have our divide 2 variable that we're setting equal to the value of 3 divided by 2. And we know from math that 3 divided by 2 should equal 1.5. But if you look over here, we have 3 divided by 2 equals 1. So what's going on here? Well, if you remember from a previous video, I mentioned that Kotlin does something called type inference, which is if I come here and say I give a variable name and I don't specify what type of data is going to be in that, Kotlin, your compiler is going to be smart enough to look at the type of data that you're putting inside of it and make your variable that same data type. So if I have divide 2, if I hover over this, you can see that our compiler, through type inference, has determined that because I'm doing 3, which is an integer, divided by 2, which is also an integer, that this should be an integer data type as well. So it's made it an int. So 3 divided by 2 is equal to 1.5, but that's not an int. That's a floating point number or a decimal number. So because of that, we're just going to drop off the decimal part of that, which is where you get the 1. So if you want to fix that, we can change this to 3.0 divided by 2.0. And now, because we have the decimal here, these are both going to be doubles. And you can see divide 2 is now going to be a double instead of an integer. So if I rerun that code, you can see now my 3 divided by 2 is going to give me 1.5 now, because we're storing it in a double, which a double data type, if you remember, has the ability to store decimal numbers, whereas an int data type does not. Now this next one here is called modulus division. And if you're not familiar with programming, you may not know what this is, but if you think back to your math class, in grade school, you learned something called long division, which long division, if you have 5 divided by 2, you're going to say, okay, 2 goes into 5 2 times, which gives us 4, and then you have 1 left over. And that 1 left over is called the remainder. So modulus division is essentially doing long division, and instead of giving us the result, which is what your / your division operator in Kotlin would give you, it's giving you the remainder. So 5 divided by 2 in math class in grade school would give you 2, remainder 1. So the modulus division, 5 modulus 2, is just going to give you that remainder, which is where that 1 value is coming from. So that can be actually quite useful in certain use cases if you're trying to determine if a number is odd or even, or if it's an integer or things like that. So there's definitely times when we will use that, and that might be new to you, but just kind of think back to math class and remember that long division. And essentially what this modulus division is giving you is the remainder from that long division problem. Okay, up next we have something called our assignment operator, which is something that we've been using up until this point. You just don't necessarily know that it's called that yet. And the assignment operator is just our equal sign. So in programming and in Kotlin as well, when I have a variable name, for example here, I have my var a, and I'm setting that equal to x. So x is another variable with a value 3 from up here. So if I have a equals x in math, that would be a statement, but this is not a statement here. This is actually an assignment. So what I can do is I can say a equals x, a equals 1, a equals 2, a equals 3. So if you had all of these in one math problem, you would say a equals x, a equals 1, a equals 2, a equals 3. And you would say this is nonsensical, this is illogical, you cannot do that. But because x cannot equal, or x and a cannot equal 1 and 2 and 3 all at the same time. That's not possible. But in programming, this doesn't mean that. This doesn't mean that they all equal, that a equals x and 1 and 2 and 3. Rather, what this means is when I hit this line of code, I'm taking the value of x and I'm dumping it into my a variable. And then when I hit the next line of code, I'm taking 1, the value 1, and I'm dumping that into my a variable. The next line of code, I take value 2, dump it into my a variable, and then value 3 and dump it into my a variable. So really, this is all terribly redundant, and I could get rid of all of that and just do a equals 3, and that would do the same exact thing. We don't need any of those other lines in there. So pretty much what your assignment operator is going to be doing is it's going to be taking whatever is on the right side of your equal sign here, or your assignment operator, and it's going to dump that value into the left side, into the variable that you have on the left side. So up above here, we have x plus y plus z, that's 12, which is where we're getting this 12 for our add variable down here. So that is the basic assignment operator, but you also have a few other assignment operators. First, you have your addition assignment operator, which is going to be a plus sign and an equal sign smashed together. And essentially, the most easy way to show what this is doing is I'm taking b and I'm adding 2 to whatever that value is. So b plus equal 2 is going to be the same as saying b equals b plus 2. This is just a longer way of writing it, and this is because it's longer, it's non-standard Kotlin code. So even your compiler here is going to give you a warning, and it's going to say, hey, you should replace that with a plus equal operator, which is your addition assignment operator. And then, so this plus equal is essentially adding 2 to the value of whatever variable you have on the left-hand side of that assignment. And then same thing with minus equal. Minus equal is going to be the same at, or b minus equal 1 is the same as writing b equals b minus 1. And then the same with your multiplication, b asterisk equals sign 2. Well, that's going to be the same as writing b equals b asterisk 2. b forward slash equal, again, is the same as b equals b forward slash or divided by 2. And then same thing with modulus division. C modulus equal 3 is the same as C equals C modulus 3. So that's easy enough. It's just essentially this 2 matches that 2. So if I have b times equals 2, that means b equals 2 times itself. But if I had that like a 6 or any other number really, that would just change this to b equals b times 6. So this is just doing this addition assignment, subtraction assignment, multiplication, division, modulus assignment statements. All that's doing is it's doing whatever operator that is. It's doing that with your variable here on the left-hand side. That's going to be your first operand. And then your number or your value or variable, whatever you have on the right-hand side of that equation, is going to be your second operand. And then after that, we have something called your increment and decrement operators. So you can see here I have d, which is a variable I declared above, and that was set to 8. So I assigned the value of 8 to d. And then if we come down here, I have this line of code that does d++. Well, this plus is our increment variable. And as you can see here, I have d, which is 8, and then I run d++, and then after that, the value of d becomes 9. So what this plus is doing is essentially it's doing d equals d plus 1, which, if you'll remember from like a minute ago, that is the same as d plus equals 1. So these all three mean the same, well, they are going to do the same exact thing when your code is compiled. But this d++ notation is very popular because oftentimes if we're looping through indexes or iterating through indexes in an array or in a list or anything, characters in a string, it's very helpful to increment by 1 every single time. So this is just a very shorthand way of writing d equals d plus 1. And the same thing with the minus. So d minus minus, you can see the d++ takes d from 8 to 9, and the d minus minus takes d from 9 back to 8. And the reason for that is d minus minus is the same as d equals d minus 1, which again is going to be the same as d minus equal 1. So all three of these, when compiled, are going to do the exact same thing. This form, though, the decrement operator, minus minus, d minus minus, that's going to be your most standard way of writing this code when you're iterating through something like a list or an array or characters in a string or whatever it is. That is just going to be your shortest form of doing that. So hopefully those aren't too complicated for you here. And that's really all we have for this video. I hope you learned something, and like and subscribe if you have, and we will see you in the next video.